Is Ben Johnson emerging as the clear favorite to be the next head coach of the Chicago Bears? We're going to get into that coming up on today's show, plus Ryan Poles' place in this whole ordeal. Welcome into Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. Before we do that, we are closing in on 112,000 subscribers. You know what I need you to do? Hit the subscribe button. Help us grow. It is free. We got daily coverage on this coaching search, the latest news, rumors, everything else surrounding the Chicago Bears. So subscribe today. We got you guys covered. All right, this is Bears Now. I am Harrison Graham. Let's get you caught up on the latest here. And the latest is this. All the reports, whether it's from Courtney Cronin of ESPN, Adam Schefter of ESPN, Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, continue to report that there's mutual interest that Ben Johnson is expected to take an interview with the Chicago Bears. And I'll even go as far as saying I think it's pretty clear that he is the clear favorite. Now, I think it's too early to determine that it's a Ben Johnson or bust situation. I think it's too early to say that he's for sure going to get this job and be this team's next head coach. But I do think if they had to choose today, and if you made me guess on who I thought it would be today, I would pretty strongly choose Ben Johnson based on the reporting out there. Now, I do think this is noteworthy as well. And multiple of these reports are suggesting that Ben Johnson will take an interview. Remember, it was reported a couple of months ago that Ben Johnson will only interview with teams that he sees going into that interview as a team he would heavily consider agreeing to be their next head coach with. Like, in other words, if you get invited or asked to do interviews these days, you pretty much take it. He's going to be so selective that he's not going to waste the team's time or his own time this cycle with the team that he does not feel pretty good about. So what does that tell us? If that's true, if he is going to take an interview with the Bears, that tells us he's very interested in being the Bears head coach, right? Like, his camp has kind of made that clear, like, hey, if we take an interview, we are very serious about taking this head coaching gig. Now, that does not mean that the Bears have to choose him just because he agrees to do an interview. It's just noteworthy that if he does take an interview, that means he is interested. And that's a good sign because he has been selective, and given the questions among the organization, the power structure, the mess that this season has been, it would be understandable if the Bears would fall into the category for Ben Johnson of, I don't know if I want to leave my cushy OC gig to join this chaotic organization. But the fact that he sees some good things within the organization, the chance to turn down an original franchise like the Chicago Bears, that's a good sign. Now, could that change? Could that reporting be slightly off? Who knows? That's certainly up for discussion, but I do think it's pretty clear. At minimum, there's mutual interest here, and that's a very, very good sign for the Bears because this is a guy who's guided a top 5 offense for 3 straight years. He knows the division. The Lions put out some social media content from him on the sideline, calling him plays and getting excited after some of these plays, including the stumble bum play, the trick play against the Bears that worked a couple of weeks ago. He and the rest of the guys were fired up for that. Like, this guy just seems like someone who gets it, who's ready for this opportunity. I don't know. I feel like he's the obvious top choice. And if you're the Bears and you can get him, I think you go get this guy. He's, I actually kind of respect that he's gone back and stayed there and continued to work on his craft. And he's wanted to win a title with Detroit. We'll see if that happens this year. But he's experienced now. He's more than qualified. If you want an offensive guy to pair with Caleb Williams, I don't think there's a more qualified candidate in this cycle out there. There's other good names. There's Joe Brady. There's Liam Cohen. There's Kliff Kingsbury. There's guys out there. But if you're looking for young offensive guy that is experienced as a play caller with a successful team, there's a clear top choice here, and that is Ben Johnson with the Detroit Lions. So we'll see where it goes from here. I do want to talk about the Ryan Poles Bears side of this discussion because obviously there's a lot of heat on Poles. Does he deserve to keep his job? Does he not? Will Ben Johnson be willing to work with Poles? A lot of rumors out there on that right now. But before we get to that, I do want to tell you first about our sponsor, Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/bears now to download the best personal finance app out there. Rocket Money is going to help you cancel any unnecessary subscriptions you may have, whether it's streaming services or, maybe you pay for monthly subscriptions to other platforms, whatever the case may be. Most Americans think they're spending roughly $62 per month on subscriptions. That number is closer to $300. Don't believe me? Sign up, sync up your bank account with Rocket Money, because you're going to be shocked at how much you're spending per month. You probably have a couple of subscriptions that you've been paying for months or years that you either forgot that you signed up for, or you signed up for a free trial and now you've been getting charged and you've wasted a lot of money. Stop doing that. We all probably spent a lot of money during the holidays. I know I did, but since Rocket Money helps me out on an annual, monthly, daily basis, I was able to save up and stay on budget throughout the year. That way, when I splurge a little bit for Christmas on my 20-month-old, no harm, no foul. We got some extra money to work with. So get started with Rocket Money today. You can set budgets. You can even negotiate to lower bills by up to 20%. Lots of cool features with the Rocket Money app. It's rocketmoney.com/bears now. Use our link to download the app today. Helps us grow. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Support our sponsors. Another way to support this program. Okay, what about Ryan Poles? Where does he fit in this whole discussion? A lot of debate among the fan base. I've kind of come to the conclusion I would probably reset GM as well. I don't think Poles is awful. I think he's done some good things. I do think he made the right choice at quarterback. I know there's a lot of polarizing opinions about Caleb Williams. Can we get a proper coaching staff in here before we fully judge him? He is just a rookie. That's kind of where I stand. But there's also been a lot of misses here. And you're just in a weird spot with Poles, because I don't think he's earned an extension. I think that's fair to say. If you want to say, just like in a nutshell, at what he's done with his job so far, 1 year left in his contract, that he deserves to finish out that contract, I can hear that conversation. The problem is you're changing coaches, and you don't want to hire a coach to a 4 or 5 year deal to work directly with your GM who has 1 year left. That would scare off coaching candidates. They want to know who they're working with. They want to know that that's a partnership to grow with. And if the Bears can't provide clarity on that, that's problematic. That could drive people away. So again, to me, you either have to extend Ryan Poles, which I don't think he's earned, or you have to fire him, which, fair or not, I think is something you have to consider. Now, Ben Johnson could be in this category of candidate, and we know he's been selective, where he might say, hey, I'm ready to go. I want this job. However, I don't want to work with Ryan Poles. I want to bring in my guy, Ray Agnew, or here's a list of 5 guys I'm comfortable with. You guys interview them. I can be involved, and we'll pick one. And Sears Tower, if you guys have followed him on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, he tweeted this out earlier. He said, getting and seeing a lot of messages about Poles' job security, so I'll reiterate this again and clarify even more. He is safe unless Ben Johnson says he won't take the job as long as Poles is GM. As far as I know, this only applies to Ben. I tweeted out, this makes no sense to me. That tells me you don't like your GM enough. Because to me, I just don't understand. This is so Bears to me, if this is true. Again, I'll put this in the rumor category. We don't know who this Sears Tower person is, but he seems to get good information. But just how my brain works, how I process this feels like another half measure to me. This kind of tells me that, okay, we like Ryan. We think he's done a good job, but we like Ben Johnson so much that he can dictate the terms. And to me, if that's the case, I don't have a problem with that, but I think you should just get rid of Ryan Poles then. Unless you interview Ben Johnson off the rip and he's like, I just want to work with Ryan Poles. But even then, I'm just like, if you're willing to let Ben Johnson say, fire him, then you don't like him enough to begin with, which is understandable. Ryan Poles is a likable guy. He's done some good things. But one of his messages when he took this job was that he was going to build through the trenches. That has not happened. The offensive line is ranked like 30th per PFF. The eye test tells you it's not a good unit. You've got one good player moving forward, Darnell Wright. Braxton Jones is an okay player, right? The other guys are all backups. Coleman Shelton, he's a fringe starter, but on a good team, he's a backup. It's one of the Matt Pryor career backup. He's actually played better than expected, but career backup. I mean, come on. Jake Curran, he single-handedly cost you the game the other night. It's just one of those things where it's like, in the one big-time move he's made in the defensive line, Montez Sweat, he has not played well this year. So you just look at this thing and you're just like, okay, so if you can't get Ben Johnson, you're willing to keep Ryan Poles. If Ben Johnson wants to come here, though, and he wants to get rid of Ryan, you're running into an awkward dynamic because Ryan Poles is running the search. So you interview Ben Johnson. Cool, I want the job. I don't want Ryan here. Is he telling Ryan that? Are his reps calling Kevin Warren separately and telling him that? Like how does that work? So I think you're creating unnecessary drama. This reminds me of the Matt Eberflus situation last year. It's like they didn't even try to go get Jim Harbaugh. They kind of operate as if, well, Matt's only been here 2 years. We improved from 3 to 7 wins. It would be unfair to move on from Matt. Again, this isn't about fair. The Bears, they think they're like the classy, nice guy organization, but the reality is A, that doesn't really get you anywhere, and B, is it the nice guy thing to do if you go through this process and then fire Poles anyway? Like, I feel like by being nice, you could result in doing something that's not nice at all. Kind of like when you fired Matt Eberflus. You had to take so long and you had to wait on George McCaskey that he had to do his presser. Then you fired him 2 hours later. Like, that's not nice. That's the opposite of nice. That's cruel. So I just look at this and I'm just like, if there's any scenario where you're willing to move on from Poles, then you should just move on from him. Like, I said this last year because everybody's like, well, what if you didn't get Jim Harbaugh? You know what I countered with? I said, what do you have to lose? Matt Eberflus? I'll say the same thing here. What do you have to lose? Ryan Poles? There's 50 GM candidates you could go contact. Doesn't mean that next guy will be good, but Ryan Poles hasn't done nearly good enough to be scared of losing him. And again, I don't think he's terrible. I think he could still be a good GM in this league. But if you have gone through scenarios based on the candidates out there where you've determined as an organization you're willing to lose this guy, then you probably should just move on. It's kind of like the Justin Fields conversation after year 3. Not to bring him into this, I'm retired from Fields debates, but just as an example, if you don't know after year 3, you probably know. And he's probably not going to be the answer. Like, same's true with Caleb. If we get through 3 seasons, that's like, well, he's flashed, he's pretty. At times he looks really good, other times he doesn't. Well, you probably have your answer. Like, if Caleb is close to what he is now in 2 years, he's not going to be the guy long term. That's just how this works. And with Ryan, I kind of feel the same. It's like, if you like some qualities about him, if you think he's a bright young guy, but he's made a lot of mistakes and you're unsure if he's for sure the right guy, fair or not, it's probably better to pivot. I'd rather pivot early than pivot too late. Like, you pivoted too late on Matt Eberflus. Do you want to go down that road again? Sure, there's a chance that you pivot, he goes elsewhere and it is an awesome GM 10 years from now somewhere else. That could happen. There's also a chance where you run it back and in 12 months you realize, oh, this $80 million in cap space, all this high draft capital that you let him run your football team with did not work out. There were some more whiffs. Like, I don't know. I just am uneasy about this situation. I do agree principally that Ben Johnson is my top guy and you should give whoever the next head coach is more power than you have in the past. But to me, just let him pick a GM. I don't think he would pick Ryan Poles if he was a free agent. So you might as well just get rid of him. Maybe that's harsh. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But I don't agree with the process that says Poles is our GM unless the top coach we want says he isn't. That just doesn't compute with me. I don't understand that whatsoever. So what say you? Should Ryan Poles be fired? Yes or no? Get your thoughts in the comment section down below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We are like 220 subs away from 112,000. You guys have been awesome withstanding this 10-game losing streak. We got one more game to go against the Packers. It could get ugly, but we'll be there for it. We'll be back with an episode tomorrow here as well. My name is Harrison Graham. Bear down.